This is a video that I've been looking for quite some time. I seen it many years back, sometime around between 2006 and 2009, and I couldn't find it anymore, and I just now found it. This video is about the gun company Detonics. The company uh, the first ones to successfully build a subcompact 1911 that actually worked. And what you're about to see is not just the Detonics, but you're going to see a torture test which is ran or being run by a good friend of mine named Peter Dunn. And I talk about Peter Dunn quite often because he taught me a lot when it comes to my gun knowledge. Gun knowledge itself, not the surviving portion and staying alive portion, but the nerd portion, right? The information, the knowledge of guns itself and the history. Um, the majority of that information came from Peter Dunn. I'd say probably 50% of what I know can be attributed to Peter Dunn. Um, if not directly, he guided me towards it. So here we go. I'll point out Peter Dunn when he shows up. Now, what they're doing here is this is crazy. So Detonics first specialized in explosives. So this is what they do. They do this. All right. Explosives is what they did before guns. So they have um, the ability to get a hold of explosives because that's what they did, right? So they're doing a torture test. So what they're about to do is put a Detonics 1911 and put it inside of a cannon, and the cannon's gonna blow it out, and they're gonna see if the gun still functions after that. I've ever known. Arguably the greatest gunsmith that we've ever seen. Now what you're looking at is they're going to shoot 31,000 rounds after shooting it out of a cannon. 31,000 rounds. tell you something. After Peter Dunn touches your, if you happen to have a 1911 that's finicky or giving you problems here and there, after Peter Dunn touches that gun, you won't have any more problems. I'm telling you that from 1980 forward, I would say Peter Dunn is the most skilled gunsmith, period, period, um, in the United States of America. Okay. Um, Guys, I was the last person to work with him for an extended period of time. I worked with them for 4 years, and we had a really awesome relationship where I ran the gun range and he was, of course, the head gunsmith. And I had to make his job easier. And so what that means is he would teach me, little basic things about uh, how to fix a firearm that was not broken, but slightly, right? Or really bad malfunctions that seemed like it was jammed so bad that there was, you had to get to a gunsmith because there was no way to get it loose or get it undone. And we're talking a situation where you get a guy who took his gun and was banging it on steel to try to get it loose, and the other range masters were in there trying their hardest to get it done and they couldn't. And I went in there and I did it in a split second because I was taught by Peter Dunn. So I made his job easier by taking guns where someone say, I need the gunsmith. And I take the gun, I'd say, what's wrong with it? I check it out. And many times I fixed the gun right then and there. It didn't need to go up to him and cause more backup, order backups, because he was slumped. He was slumped with orders. And so there was that. And we had that relationship, and he loved me for it. The second part of the relationship is that whenever he was done fixing a gun, he'd bring it down to me to shoot it to make sure that the gun was fixed and functioning. I would take that time to, touch up on my shooting skills. So I wouldn't just go out there and just shoot it just to get the rounds out to make sure it's working, which is all I needed to do. But I would take a target out there and I would work on my marksmanship. So daily, sometimes multiple times a day, I get a gun and I get to shoot it. And so what I had to get used to is grabbing a random gun I've never shot, a grip angle I'm not familiar with, sights I may or may not like, caliber I may or may not like, etc. And take that gun, and I had to be just as good with that as I was with my own carry gun. And that was the goal. No matter what gun he handed me, I had to be. And he started making it a thing. If I didn't do good, he'd tease me like, what was that? And so it was so fun. It became a thing. And my marksman skills increased highly because of that. And when I talk about how I've shot so many guns, and I know a lot of people are like, how the heck have you shot like every gun, bro? Like, it's probably hard to believe, and I get it, but it's because of that. Every gun you can think of is coming through to Peter Dunn because he is the best, especially in this state. Easy, of course, but I'm telling you, he's the best that we've seen, in the last 30, 40 years. And so he would be, swamped with all this work. But I would take those guns and shoot them. And so I ended up shooting everything. It was random guns, old guns, new guns, you name it. That was our relationship. And he would teach me about things. He'd bring a gun down. I'm like, well, what happened with this? And I remember this situation with this gun. What ended up being the problem? And so he would just talk to me, and a lot of times he'd lose me. His gun knowledge is so vast, it's so deep that I would just get lost sometimes. Like, I don't know what he's talking about anymore. Like, I'm lost. Like, I don't know what he's saying. And sometimes I just play along, like, oh, okay, because I didn't have time to really have a deep conversation on it. But when I did, I would say, hold on, wait a minute. I don't understand, because I want to get that information. So anyhow, this is the myth, the legend. And look, let me tell you, I'm not the only one. Anyone who knows him will tell you the same thing. He was the true brains behind Detonics. He did this. So I want you to think of the significance of this. And let this play for a second, and I'll come back to it. That's Peter Dunn.
Not bad for a gun that's been shot out of a cannon.
Not bad for a gun that's been shot out of a cannon. That was him at the end. Said that not bad for a gun that's been shot out of a cannon. So I want you to think about this when we talk about Peter Dunn. Okay. If everything I said you thought to yourself, nah, whatever. You're just saying that because you know him and you want to, whatever. Okay. Let's just take this bare minimum. John Browning created the 1911. One of the greatest guns we've ever seen, still in production today, still being used today, especially in competition shootings, still being used for self-defense. The double stack is bringing the 1911 back, making people more inclined to carry it because the capacity is climbing. But this is a gun that John Browning designed. Now, I want you to think about this. John Browning designed this, came out in 1911, right? John Browning had at least 20 years to create a compact version of his 1911, a subcompact version of his 1911. You can argue and say that he didn't have the desire or want to do that, and you can make that argument. We'll never know. But just understand that this design that John Browning created, many people tried to create a subcompact 1911. Make no mistake, for years, we're talking from 1920 and on, people attempted it and tried. They failed. They failed over and over and over and over again. It is not easy to create a subcompact 1911. There is a video of the Detonics Combat Master on Forgotten Weapons. Ian speaks on it, and he goes into great detail on how difficult it is to successfully create a subcompact 1911. So I suggest you go back and you go watch that so you understand, because I'm not going to go into the details of that. I'm just telling you the facts that the 1911, to make it a subcompact, was extremely difficult, and no one was able to do it successfully from 1911 until basically 1980. Roughly 70 years it took. Think about that. Roughly 70 years before someone could successfully create the subcompact 1911. There was a man who had the idea to do it, but he didn't know how to do it. His idea was genius, but he had no idea how to make it happen. He patented it and left. He had nothing to do with it anymore. When he patented it and left, it was all up to Peter Dunn to make it a reality. Peter Dunn took the 1911 platform and successfully created the world's first working subcompact 1911 that had never been done in 70 years. It had never been done ever. But it took 70 years for someone to do it, and it was Peter Dunn to do it. He took the genius of John Browning and added his own genius to it that nobody can take from him. Because even till today, nobody has still made it as compact as he did and as well as he did. And I think that says a lot. I want you to just think about that. You mean, of course people wanted a subcompact 1911. Of course people wanted to be able to carry the 45 in concealment. Of course they did. In 70 years, no one could do it except Peter Dunn. Now that's genius. In my book, that's genius. I'm not saying that he's John Browning's genius, who created the 1911 in the first place. Peter Dunn wouldn't have anything to even go off of without John Browning, but my God, 70 years, nobody successful, and it was Peter Dunn to make it happen. He was the chief engineer, and he made it happen. So just keep that in the back of your head there whenever you hear Detonics. You think about Peter Dunn and the amazing feat that he did creating the subcompact, the first working subcompact 1911, which then was the blueprint for all the other companies that now create these subcompact 1911s. But prior to Peter Dunn, they had no idea. Smith & Wesson didn't know how to do it. Colt didn't know how to do it. Right? Think about that. Kimber didn't know how. Nobody knew how. Well, Kimber came on much later, but nobody knew how to create the subcompact 1911. Randall didn't know how to do it. Right? You can name it. On and on and on. Ruger didn't know how to do it. Nobody. In 70 years, Peter Dunn did it. That's amazing. And I just want to make this video for him because he's an amazing guy. I want to give him his flowers before he leaves this earth because he absolutely deserves it. He's a big reason to why I have the knowledge I have and who I am today. And I highly appreciate it. Peter Dunn, if you ever hear this video, thank you for everything you did. This is Walter, and I appreciate it all, buddy. Whammy out.